Hi, family. This is going to be another one of those off the cuff episodes that will come to be infamously known as my own technique or whatever. Before I share with you the topic of today, which is, by the way, it's not normal. None of this is normal. Let me just say I just came from our local Walmart. Now, I will tell you that I've said for many, many years that I'm firmly of the belief that this Walmart was built on an Indian burial ground, because I have been to Walmarts quite literally in and out of this country, and I have never seen people, customers, behave the way they do in that store. Twice throughout the years, I've chewed somebody's ass for being mean to an employee, one of whom was just this fragile little J1 from, I don't know, India somewhere, who happened to be in the wrong department at the wrong time. I'm sure the woman who was verbally lashing her, I'm sure her ears are still ringing from my own lashing. She tried telling me it was none of my business, and I said, oh yeah, it is. I live here. This is my business. More of us should do that, yeah? So that was the Walmart that I'm at today, and I got my stuff, and I go to leave, and there's this woman, and she is frantically, she looks over at me, she's got her card, and she goes, I don't know where my car is. And I'm laughing because it's Friday, and we live in this vacation destination in the Midwest, and so the parking lot is full. And she's lost her car, and I laugh and I say, don't misunderstand, I've done that, I get it. And so she says, listen, do you hear it? We both listened for the beep, and I said, you are so far from your car right now. So she headed off across the parking lot. I could just so relate to that. I'll bet so many of you can too, right? I mean, how many times have we lost our car there? And she goes, sometimes I worry. And I'm like, it's just part of the process. Really, truly. We're so hard on ourselves about this memory thing, but I'm firmly of the belief, really, truly, I think this, if you can look at this visual, our brains are like this sponge, literally, but like this sponge, and they take in all this information over the decades, right? And at some point, I'm telling you, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. Your brain, well, at least if you don't stop like living and learning, your brain will get to a point where it's just so full of stuff. Stuff just starts falling out, you guys. It does. So you just have to get off your back about that. It is the way it is. So the topic today is not one of humor. And this morning, when I didn't like intend on doing this morning when I got up, I just happened to have one of these things that I'm going to share with you was on my mind, and suddenly it was like the whole dam burst. And I know this is not a comprehensive list by any means, but I'm going to try my best just to walk through, because I've written this down, and I'm going to try to walk through like as factually as I can some of this or all of this, to try to make, well, I guess it's kind of twofold. First of all, it's amazing. You guys, I've said it before, but you seriously need to do this, because when you start dissecting, I always try to stay in the I. I don't like saying you. That's like lecture. I hate people lecturing. What is that saying I love so much? I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. When I start, so I've been in, for those who maybe never have listened to me before, I've been in active recovery, for better or for worse, coming up on 25 years now. And so for those of us who work on being self-aware and, trying to be the best versions of ourselves, we walk through this process of dissecting things. And the goal is to do it in a healthy way. I have not always done that, clearly. I mean, I've had to make amends. Hell, I had to make one today. Oh my God, at Walmart, right? I go in there and I'm not in the best of moods because there's something going on with these freaking expensive headphones that I bought. And so I've got to get this auxiliary jack. I mean, there's always something. I had to replace my printer, and I'm still not able to print out my production flow checklist. So I still haven't gotten out. I don't know if this is ever going to happen. That episode where just way too much going on, you guys. I can't keep up. So I go to Walmart and I asked the guy in electronics, who was just a little sourpuss, and he doesn't have a clue. He's very, very ornery, and he just like doesn't even saunter. He almost just, I don't know, I was bugging him, right? So he went over and pointed out this section. I just said to him, I don't want your help. I will get someone else. I could tell he was not happy. So he calls over Cheyenne. She was very pleasant, and she got me this cable here. I don't know if it works or not. I haven't gone that far. So I get to the front of the store, and I'm like, oh, fine. So I go over and I get triple chocolate cupcakes. And I purchase all my stuff, and I take it to the front at customer service, and I said, please watch my cart for me. I have to get these cupcakes back to an employee who I was very short with. And then two people behind the counter who were young were actually quite surprised by that. And so when I did go back, Zach was like begrudgingly, I finally got him to loosen up. I was able to get him to smile and to take a little bit of accountability. I said, look, I'm really sorry. I walked in here with a bad attitude, and it didn't help, when I didn't get a good reception from you. It turned out good, and I left there feeling good. That's all part of recovery. Full circle back to, I woke up with one at 3 a.m. It's really wholly unnecessary to get up during the middle of the night, but you might as well just do something if you're going to. So I woke up at 3 a.m. and I did my readings. I have 9 morning readings that I had gone almost a month without. I've not done that in my recovery. The only other time that I went for a long period of time without reading my readings was when my son died. That's really pissed off at God, and all that stuff sounded like BS to me. Sometimes it still does, but it's good for me. It's good for me. So I have 9 readings. Only one of them is like, one's AA related, one's Al-Anon, 2 are Melody Beattie, who I love, love, love. She died in February, very quietly, at 76 years old, I think. The mother of the codependent movement, basically, but 2 of her books. So anyway, I have these readings, and I started back up again because they're just with a gargantuan cup of coffee, because I can only have one, so it's big, It's a magnificent way to start the day off. So when I did that, came back here to the studio, and I had a little bit of time on my hands because I was meeting up with my treasured friend Tracy today. It's her birthday, and we were meeting up for breakfast and in a chat and a visit and a coffee clutch, And I was going to take her piece that I'd made, but unfortunately it's not cured completely. So here it sits, and I took her a little video instead. There's acceptance. I would have thrown a fit before, but once I realized I had a little bit of time on my hands, I sat down in front of this desktop, and I just started writing, and it just flowed. I had started at first, I was going to put it in some sort of order once it just stopped flowing, and then I thought, no, I stopped, and I'm just going to share it with you as it flowed. And what this is about is me sharing with you some things that have happened in my life. And when I share these things with inner circle folks who are mentally healthy, who live a life of being community-minded and friendship-minded, that kind of thing. So when I share it with people who are actually working on being the best versions of themselves, there's always such, I don't know if disbelief is the right word, but shock, right? It's like some of this is so outside the boundaries of normal. And when you're inside of it, you don't realize it. And then when you get outside of it, you're like, oh my God. But when it involves someone that you love with all of your heart, that came from your own loins. I mean, geez, oh, you guys. So anyway, I'm just going to kind of share this with you. We'll see how it goes. Just titled, It's Not Normal, None of This is Normal. And that was actually something I said to my granddaughter during one of these events. So the first thing, a father taking a toddler into a darkened theater, setting her on his lap as adult porn scenes play out in front of her confused little mind, and coming out terrified of what the darkness now brings with it. That's not normal. A foster father and uncle who use your body as a dumping grounds for their lust. And a foster mother who uses a crib stick to beat you up and down the backside to try and force your small, fragile siblings to dance. That's not normal. I decided when I first made the decision to start a YouTube channel that I would be as authentic as I knew how to be. So here I am, no makeup. I usually try to put on mascara and eyeliner, but not today. I've got a sore going on my lip. I spent almost 3 days blow drying plastic on windows to weatherize, and I think I may have screwed my body up a little bit. I think that's what's happening here. So what you see is what you get. I'm going to finish this out now. Pretty heavy duty stuff, you know, so I needed to take a break. Your daughter's aunt on her father's side wearing the mother of the bride t-shirt at your daughter's bridal shower to her second husband, and then both saying it was the other's idea when I, years later, was given the chance to confront each of them individually about it. Each said it was the other's idea. I guess the only thing I'll say to you about that is her aunt was in her 60s by then, and my daughter was in, I believe she was almost 40 by then. So I don't know what else to say about that, but that's not normal. And I can't begin to tell you how hurtful that was, and it was intended. It was intended to be hurtful. That is one of the primary traits in this estrangement movement, is the ability to compartmentalize feelings that may have been there and just be relentlessly cruel. And when I first confronted, it was actually her aunt who confronted me. She was finally angry at my daughter years later over something to do with my daughter's father had died, his sister. There was a battle going on about his truck and his motorcycle and whatever. And anyway, so that finally was enough to blow them up. And when she just was so astonished, and she just said to me she couldn't believe that Jess would do that to her. And I just looked at her and I said, really, if she would do that to her own mother, why do you think you'd be exempt? But that's the arrogance that lives inside that kind of dysfunction. That's not normal. A woman wearing a mother of the bride t-shirt at a bridal shower who is not the bride's mother. A lot of twisted dysfunction in this family. Next. Ah, yes. In an embrace with her second husband-to-be. I think they weren't quite married at the time. I don't remember. Got the picture somewhere. Both throwing up the middle finger in a picture as a message to me. He was behind her, his arms around her, and they're both like this, grinning from ear to ear. And then fast forward years and years and years later, a baby shower held for my granddaughter that I wasn't present for, and then seeing a picture of your grandchildren doing the same thing. They're all in together with their mates and they're doing this, right? It just, what can you say? That's not normal. My youngest granddaughter, oh my God, she was I don't know, 5 years old. And my daughter had asked me to come to this dance recital that she was in. And I eagerly did so. I always went to those things, always, whenever I got the chance. And when my granddaughter's father, when he came into the room and saw me, I've never seen anyone's face go so red so fast. I mean, he was in a state of rage, and he yanked that little girl's arm so hard. I could have sworn he dislocated it as he pulled her out of the studio and took her away instead of letting her stay and participate. His aunt did the same thing. I was at a public school function, and Melanie she was on stage. Oh gosh, she was just a living doll, and she was so happy that I was there. And then afterwards, she came running to me, and I could see her grandmother on her other side, the one that, it's a soap opera. Anyway, with her aunt, so it would have been her grandmother's sister, just livid. They were just livid. And Melanie didn't leave my side, so they finally came up next. And Melanie grabbed both of them, and she grabbed my hand and says, "Let's take a picture together." And her Aunt Robin, I could not believe it, ripped her hand away. I guess it's a family thing, right? Ripped her hand away and said, "I'm not taking a picture with her." I mean, I leaned down and whispered into Melanie's ear, "You know Grandma would have a picture with you with anyone, right? You know that." "I know, Grandma," she said. And then she gave me the finger painting that she'd done. I didn't make them happy either, but it was a gesture of love from a child that didn't understand. And why should you understand that kind of just bizarre, unacceptable behavior from adults who are not acting like adults? Ah, yes. A daughter telling her mother that her mother loves her granddaughter more than she does her own child. I remember being so astonished at that remark. I mean, I apologized. I apologized to my daughter because she felt like I loved her daughter more than her. And I apologized because I thought, well, I guess in all the grief of losing my son, and Olivia was born he was gone on July 13th and she was born on September 20th. And so maybe I had done that. That's not normal, you guys. Family members who spend years addicted to cocaine, which then enabled them to act with cruelty and brought on great damage to my oldest living grandchild. The repercussions are still, and that wasn't my daughter, I need to make that clear. Oh, and Liv at the upstairs window on Carpenter Street. Gosh, I'll never forget it. Hands to the window, just sobbing. Here's my granddaughter, I don't know, she was maybe 10 or 11, maybe not even that. Hands to the window, just sobbing because her father's partner had told her she had to go inside and couldn't see me. It was just the most, that's not normal. And I said that to her. I looked up at her. I felt so helpless. I said, "Liv, this isn't normal. None of this is normal." Getting an anonymous letter, vile, cruel, and hate-filled, from someone who's not even a blood member of our family, setting herself up as judge, jury, and executioner. I was just astonished. I mean, when I got beyond the shock of receiving it, it said the family, right? So it was representative of the whole family. I didn't know what it was when I opened it up, and I was just astonished at what was inside that letter. And it was what was funny about the whole thing is this person tried to send it anonymously, but no one in my family, except perhaps me, is capable of that kind of writing. No one has that gift of English, command of the English language, that kind. She was the only one who could have done it. Oh, anyway, blocking me, my daughter blocking me on every possible avenue. And then revising history for everyone who was left to watch, right? Painting me as Attila the Hun when it came to parenting. I'm not kidding. And if you think about this, really think about it. Blocking is the only answer, isn't it? When you're going to tell a story that isn't true, I guess you'd have to block the people you're going to talk about. A child who doesn't raise any of her own children, none, crucifying her mother for pretty much anything parenting related. Yeah, that's just a fact, Jack. Expressing undying love and devotion for your mother, love bombing, and I have several samples of her writing, and then completely removing yourself from her world, claiming she's crazy and abusive. On and off, on and off, on and off. Burning, throwing away, giving away, or leaving behind priceless treasures that were passed on to you by your mother. The ceramic Christmas village that your grandmother made by hand that you and your brother grew up with, among all the other lost treasure. That one hurts the most. Yeah. And it's supposed to. That was the intent. Taking my grandson from the only father he'd ever known for the first 3.5 years of his life, and turning on a dime after 4 years of that man's dedicated support, because it was months and months and months of this court proceeding thing. So Larry was in that boy's life for 4 years, and he was an amazing father. He loved that boy. He was with both those kids. Oh, whenever he wasn't working, he was with those kids in the first few years of their life. So taking that boy away from him, and now this is the man who had lost both of his parents to the tornado in Utica, Illinois in 2004, right? So now you're going to take his son mercilessly without giving a care about either the son or his father. You're just going to do it because that's what you do. A grandchild with whom you enjoyed the closest of bonds, leaning out the passenger window of the car her mother is driving, my daughter, and making a vomiting sound, looking in your direction, and then her mother laughing and speeding away. That's just not normal. By any rational standard, that is not normal. Demanding that Larry, someone still recovering from a suicide attempt, after she took away his son, and then fast forward some years later, and now they're going to try to take away his other couple of boys that he's been raising. Story for another day. But demanding that he stop communicating with me, or there will be hell to pay, meaning that he would lose access to his yet to be born first grandson. And she would do it. So I had to let Larry go. Once in a while, I'll send him a text and see how he's doing. But I can't be responsible for him not seeing his grandson. I can't be responsible for another generation of alienation. I mean, I'll be blamed for it, but he's trying so hard to come back to life after just being just unbelievably just destroyed and stomped on mercilessly and cruelly. And I'm not going to add to that. And I miss him. I miss who he was. I miss who we were. Not letting me know when Larry tried to kill himself, or when her half-sister died, who I I really did care about Missy. Was a wonderful, gentle, kind soul who just never, ever got a break. Never. Not letting me know that TJ, my grandson, would be graduating from high school. Listen, throughout the years, many times in between, these windows, I would get invited by her to these things. And in the times I wasn't, I would go and stand in the back of a room or, in the back of a field. I would do whatever it took if it was a public event. And my daughter knew that. My husband used to say, and I'm sure she remembers, deep down in that place where you can't lie to yourself, my daughter knows what she did. She knows. She meant to hurt. And it was the only thing that stays with me. I can't let it go is that, and maybe not, maybe he didn't look for me. Maybe, he's forgotten about me, maybe. But he knew I was always there. I was always in the crowd, always. So I wonder if he looked for me that day, That's not normal. That's not normal. There's something psychologically abnormal about that kind of behavior. Letting Mother's Day and my birthday go by with nothing. I can't tell you how many there have been. And my birthday and Mother's Day, once every 7 years, are on the same day. And she is merciless. I mean, there is no mercy. My son never forgot. Never, not once. Not my birthday, not Mother's Day, not... Yeah. I miss that boy. The purposeful darkness of Thanksgiving and Christmas and their birthdays. I'm in prison, and she is my judge, jury, and executioner. Dysfunctional, including alcoholic and drug addicted, mentally ill, and teetering on the edge of mentally ill, drug addicted, alcoholic. Family members who add to the dysfunction of the family body like an aggressive cancer invades the body. Many of these family members have not been in recovery. Most of them have not. They probably don't think they need it. And the few that are just recently started going, and they're trying and they're starting. But the destruction is done. My family was blown to bits by gossip and dysfunction and misinformation, admiration and undying devotion of a man who never worked. He sold pot on the side, and he made a boatload of money doing it. As another family member of mine took orders and delivered for him. That's the truth. While crucifying the woman whose skill set you currently use to manage a corporate store. A bonus sister feeding alcohol and pot to my then 12-year-old granddaughter. And oh yeah, they're still buddies. They're all buddies. Another bonus sister who intentionally lied in order to get my 2 kids to go camping, resulting in my daughter experiencing something she never should have, and a long, drawn-out court process that ended with me sitting alone in a courtroom, both sides of the room livid with me for not acting upon their wishes. I just made an episode about that. Family betrayal, I think I called it, or something. So if you want to know about it, go into that. Larry losing both of his parents to that tornado in Utica, Illinois on April 20th, 2004. My daughter and I losing TJ, her brother and hero, and my son, by his own hand less than 3 months later. That is not normal. So far outside the realm of the normal human experience. A daughter coming in and out of your life, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each time in crisis after a failed marriage. Each time I rescued her and made Christmas for all three kids. I don't know why, but every time my daughter's marriages end, they end right before Christmas. Her fourth one did too. I don't know why. It's like a rule or something. I don't know. So I had to make Christmas. She didn't have any money. She didn't have anything to do for them. So, and that, like I said, that included the fourth time when I just couldn't take it anymore. And I didn't pick up the phone that night. I still can't believe that happened. If somebody had told me that I would ever not be able to pick up the phone for my daughter, I would have lost every dime I ever hoped to make. I mean, when she was a little girl and she put her arms around my neck, and I couldn't imagine this ever happening. Months after settling into a relationship with a man who turned out to be her third husband, and just days before they were to come to my home for a Christmas celebration, for which I'd spent months preparing, I had 6 of those gargantuan bags, those plastic bags that they have at Christmas time, the great big, massive, they look like garbage bags, but they're a lot bigger. I had 6 of them. There was one for each kid. So my daughter had 3, he had 2. So there was one for each kid, and there were like 10 to 12 gifts in each one of those. And then there was a gargantuan one for them, in which I had placed things for their new home, etc. She informed me just days before that I was going to have to bring all 6 bags to her place where the celebration was going to occur. It wasn't a request. She didn't sit down with me and say, hey, Mom, I'd really, really like to have Christmas here this year. I really would. I haven't had it before. You know, I would have been so okay with that. My daughter knows that. I know she knows that. If she would have said that to me, or said, hey, Mom, can we talk? You know, but she didn't. She waited until we were in the living room. Everybody was in the living room. And all of a sudden she looks at me and says, you're going to need to bring all those bags over. We're celebrating Christmas here. I mean, it was like a command, demand, whatever. And I remember I've talked about triggers. I know I hate that word, but there's no more accurate description for it. That's what happened. Trigger. I jumped up. I couldn't breathe. I jumped up, and the next thing I know, I was halfway down County Highway A. I was pulled over. I had my hands gripped on both sides of the wheel so hard that it hurt when I let them go. And I was sobbing and trying to breathe. And that was done intentionally. That was very methodical and planned. So when my bonus mom was staying with me, when I broke my ankle, back in, I was like 2011 maybe. The daughter who was so spoiled, it's a story for another day, my bonus mom's daughter, she was so angry that she couldn't get her to come back. She'd stay with me for several, she was so happy with me. It was quiet, it was peaceful, there was no stress. So she gets a phone call that someone tried to break into her house, my bonus mom's house. Last night, they tried to break in through the bathroom. The bathroom window is busted, and she's got to come home. So, of course, my mom is, understandably freaked out. So the next night, we go to play bingo, and this sister was there, and I looked at her and I said, hey, because I knew what she'd done. I knew what she'd done. I lived with that girl since she was a child. I said, hey, I want to get a copy of that police report. I didn't file a copy. I didn't call the police. I said, what? What do you mean you didn't call the police? Well, I didn't call them. No, she didn't call them because she busted the window. That's what happened. She knew it and I knew it. Mom ended up going back home. That's not normal. You see, that's not normal, that kind of thing. A brother and his wife take a train trip to Texas. An aunt that I've loved and cherished loses her mind over some conversation or text that happened while they were there. It destroyed our relationship. Now, our relationship wasn't strong to begin with. There were really only, honestly, a few memories from when I was young. My Aunt Jeannie was like she was a tomboy and she liked playing with bazooka guns. I remember being under the house and playing bazooka guns with her. And my Aunt Joanne was girly and she'd be getting me all dressed up and in high heels and we'd walk around, you know. So that was the relationship that we had. I mean, we moved up here when I was little, 7 or whatever. So, you know, we really didn't have a relationship. But you know how that goes. You Facebook, whatever. So I don't know to this day. It has never been made clear to me what was said or done. I remember texting my brother, and I didn't remember texting Loretta, but they said I did. And something about I was trying to be a spy on my biological mother or something. I don't know. The only thing I remember is texting my brother and saying, hey, how you guys doing? How's your trip? How's Jana doing? That was my, you know, and all of a sudden, like, I don't even know what happened, right? You ever played that in college? We were in a communications course, and the very first day, the professor gets us all up on the stage. It was held in the theater. We get on the stage in the round circle, right? And we all sit down, and it's called a telephone game, and he whispers something into the first person's ear, and it goes all the way around the room. And of course, by the time it got around, it was like 30 of us or whatever. It was entirely different. It did not even closely resemble what was originally said. And that's how easy miscommunication happens. So that's clearly what happened here. I don't know. I tried, it was a mess. So it's just not normal. That kind of stuff is not normal. Not in mentally healthy, functioning, communicative families. That aunt wanting to put in the obituary that your biological mother, her sister, was well adjusted. Seriously, you guys, have you ever in your life, in all the obituaries that you have ever read, have you ever read one that said someone was well adjusted? Yeah, no, that was put in there because my biological mother had nothing to do with any of us kids. Nothing. Ever. I kept waiting, you know. When I did my 9th step amends, I called my biological mother. You can't imagine how hard that was. And when she told me that she forgave me and my sister, who was like a baby, I just said goodbye. And she told everybody I was going to take care of her. And it was just, you know, you can't deal with, people who are not recovered, don't want to recover, or willfully ignorant, whatever. She virtually had nothing to do with us, ever. But when she died, we didn't know. We found out the hard way that we were responsible. I mean, we paid for it. They were going to, my aunt wanted her cremated, and because nobody had the money, she'd been in, I don't know, assisted living or something for a couple of years, you'd think she would have at least figured out her obituary, or I don't know. Anyway, we 5 kids ended up splitting the cost, and we paid for it. We didn't know nothing to do with her, but I wasn't going to let her be buried in a potter's field by the county, because that's evidently what they were going to do. The obituary. Yeah, so she wanted to put well adjusted, and I couldn't allow that. I mean, she'd already taken out, my dad's name wasn't even in the obituary, so it was like, she made it look like we were the children of this other man she'd married. I didn't say anything about that. I mean, you know, but the well-adjusted thing, I couldn't let that pass. There was just no way. I had a necklace made out of her sister's ashes for not only her, but for this other sister who has also blocked me. Oh my God, you guys. Seriously. Do you see why I have a channel? You're all going to get all the drama you want. Yeah, that sister is the one that just blocked me. So, so her surgery. So I don't know if, well, of course you remember the night the world shut down, COVID. I think it was March 18th. I'd have to look it up. My sister had to have surgery. She had to have her breast removed for cancer, right? So, she was scheduled for 6 o'clock the next morning to go in. I had spent months, literally months, asking all of my friends who did this, a few family members. They sent, it probably amounted to about $1,000 worth of gifts for my sister. I wrapped them all up. I mean, I went, I knew my sister was scared. I knew she was alone. I knew, so anyway, that morning, I didn't know the world had shut down. It shut down overnight. That morning, I load the car up, right? I mean, it's dark. I load the car up. I head down there to the hospital. I pull up and like, oh my God, there's like 2 or 3 people in hazmat suits at the entrance of the hospital. Now they're waiting, right? They're waiting for Cindy because she is the only one scheduled for surgery. She's the only one they're letting into the hospital. I said, wait a minute. I've spent months doing this. I'm going to do a video to show everybody her opening her gifts. We were planning it, right, while she was prepping for surgery or whatever. She said, and no, they couldn't let it happen. So here I am. I got this video clip somewhere. I think it's on my other channel of just frantically opening up all these gifts. And it was just, Cindy, of course, couldn't concentrate on anything. And she was so upset about, having to go to this hospital without her partner. And I mean, it was not a good situation. My poor friends, I mean, I thanked them, I did for what they did. I was so kind and generous, but that was the only thank you they ever got. That's not normal. It's just not normal. Ooh, we're almost to the end. Here's the last one. A sister who is friends with you on Facebook. So when this first went down, she was friends with me on Facebook. So she had asked me about referrals to come up to, I live in the Midwest vacation destination, right? So she'd asked for referrals to come up to a resort. Her and her husband were going to come from Texas. And I gave her the referral. So since then, since this went down initially, she has come up now 3 times. She has stayed twice in one of the resorts I recommended, and she has stayed once in the other resort. So 3 times now, she has stayed in resorts that I recommended. She eagerly took my recommendations. However, she didn't let me know. I didn't even know she was staying at the one resort. Okay, the first time was the family reunion, so I knew about that one, went to see him, Second time, I had sent a gift to her and her husband, like a month before, and didn't hear anything back. So I finally writing to her. Finally, she writes back and she says, we're down the street, we're leaving. So we didn't get your gift. I'm like, what? She was 5 minutes from me, literally 5 minutes from me. They had been there staying at the resort that I recommended. Never, ever told me. I don't know who they told, if anyone, I don't know. But that's not normal. You guys, that's not normal. You see, my sister, she served with honors. I mean, she deserves all of the accolades that she gets for her military service. And on paper, her marriage is long. She will go down in history as having served with honors and having a marriage that went on for decades. It's easy to compartmentalize. For a long time, you can compartmentalize. If you go into some sort of, you make the army your family, you make the church your family, whatever, you can compartmentalize, but eventually it catches up. Eventually, there's no place to run. So last thing I want to share, and this is about what's going on at the macro level, the national level. So I'm going to end it with this. What's being preached in his name today would break his heart. Faith was never meant to be a weapon, a campaign slogan, or a tool of power. Christ didn't die for nationalism. He died for humanity.